I love when Tátil talks about brand movements and everything that comes on the post-branding. Their work never finished on the brand design. They were always recognized by innovation, thinking about product too, and helping, being true partners to the clients on how to get the brands to life. First time that I saw the magic of sprints and fell in love for it was back on my Coca-Cola time on the client side, when we were looking for different ways to put projects to the street in a faster way, in a more agile way, like talking more with consumers, having a better pulse, not only of the market per se, but the markets, understanding how different constituents, different stakeholders thought about the project and could contribute to that, and getting out of this position of some people developing the project and some people approving the project. We wanted to have everybody as part of the conversation, contributing to their point of view, including consumers. And we ended up exploring some design thinking applications, sprints applications, and some different ways to have in-depth understanding of consumers and agility when executing the project. And for me, it was transformational. I felt that I wanted to work, like personally, I wanted to work more and more like that. I felt a great sense of accomplishment, of getting to the truth about the product or the problems we were trying to solve, which was fundamental for getting the project right. And then, 15 years had gone by, and I keep working, and I work a lot on the client side, and now I'm executing sprints and leading with Tátil this initiative of applying for a specific use case, and more, like a couple dozen brands and projects after. Now I know more why I love working, and I'll try to summarize some of the things that I think are the most important, because we tend to think about speed, and definitely speed is part of the process, and it's one of the key advantages, not only because we want and we need, businesses need to work fast, but also because when you do that, you have more chance that whatever the idea you develop, it is still relevant for the problem that you have, for the market situation. If you spend too much time going back and forth, even a great idea might get to the market too late for what it needed to be accomplished. But speed aside, I think what I like the most is that it changed the dynamics. If you put it exactly on the situation of clients and creative agencies, it changed the dynamics of like back and forth, developing and approving, and also brings to the table more discussion about the briefing per se. That's where 70, 80, maybe, but definitely more than 50% of the solution is in the definition of the problem. So when you're sprinting, we are all equally responsible, clients and creatives, to better define what is the problem that we want to be solving and what are the solutions for that. So everybody comes with skin in the game. There is no situation like I try to ask you for an impossible task and just hope for a miracle. I'm going to be very responsible for delivering the solution. I'm going to be there in the room, facing the trade-offs, facing the discussions of, yes, it's missing something, but if I put this something back, I might be making it too complex, or it might be overshadowing some other parts of the solution. And we all need to get to a discussion and to get to a solution of what are the trade-offs that we want to make, what are we missing, and what are we gaining when we do that. So I think we ended up with solutions that way more connected to real life and things that can be executed. There is one thing that I'll never forget, and a couple of quotes and a couple of things and that people told me that really reinforced my passion for sprinting and the confidence that it's a great solution. One of them is a CMO that told after the end of the sprint, the feedback was, I've been in this position for 5 years, and finally I have clarity of what this product is about and what is your value for the consumers and our unique selling proposition. And if you think about it, it was very straightforward and very important that he was going back to what is the basis of any communication, which is to know what do I want to communicate and why it matters for the consumer and for the market. And you might think that, wow, after 5 years, you know what the product is about. But we also know when we work with complex problems that it's not as simple as it sounds. And getting to that truth is hard. And like after a week working together, we could get there. And after that, create a whole campaign and how we would be launching and relaunching. In this case, it was a repositioning for a very complex offer, a very important and relevant business for them. That was in a moment of confusion and not understanding what were their true value for the consumers and therefore for the business. Another quote that I love and keep coming back to my mind is not about the results, but it's about one of the creatives involved in a process that we were doing by that time. I was in London, saying it was the best week of my life. Think about somebody telling you that an intense week of work, really intense. It's intellectually intense. You are working with the same people over the same problem for 1 week. You don't leave until you have the solution. So it also means some days very long hours, focus, not looking at your phone and just like stay in the problem until you cannot take it anymore. And then you go back and stay in the problem. After that, you say that it was the best week of your life. I think it's really relevant, and it talks about the true connection that you do when you are sprinting. We all want to feel accomplished professionally. So the idea that you delivered something that you believe that has the power to solve the problem you're trying to solve. Also, you're working with very interesting people that you don't work on the day by day. Even if you are working with great agencies and great suppliers, and inside the company you have interesting discussions, they tend to fade, and as part of your routine, you have one interesting conversation, and then you have to go back to what we call that's the job, and then we start deviating from our purpose. And this is a week where you meet new people that bring very important expertise to the table, and they have interesting conversations and dynamics, and there's this feeling of I want to see it done and done it right. That's very fulfilling. So I understand and I empathize that even being tiresome, it is very rewarding. So I keep remembering that person telling me it was the best work week of my life. And I was, I never thought about that. But it's also very important, the legacy that you leave to the business and how to do things differently. Honestly, I think there is something that also we need to face. The right people over the right problem is what we need to get to the right solution, right? So if we dilute efforts and we talk a little bit with some people and then a little bit with other people and try to miraculously get to some breakthrough, it's less possible, less probable that you're going to get there versus if you get the people by expertise. So you define well the problem and then you say, well, for this specific problem, I need, maybe it's not a designer, but it's an architect. So let's have them in this conversation and let's work together with the designer, with the strategist, with the problem owner, with the brand stakeholders, and let's figure out the solution. So let's talk about speed too. If you consider the whole process from briefing to finishing up with prototypes, it is 5 weeks. 4 weeks of preparation, when on the background, me, people involved on leading the sprints, Tátil, we are redefining the briefing with the clients and putting up all the resources and the preparation of the dynamics that are going to be needed for the week together. And then we spend 1 week, only 1 week. It's intense. It's 1 week where we are all working on the same problem and we finish it up with prototypes. It is fast. So even when we say, it is a big commitment, we're going to stay the whole week working only on this project, knowing that we have to deal with all other stuff in our life in some very specific moments or sometimes late at night. It is the definition of intensity, right? It's the same amount of work, but instead of diluting that throughout 6 months of back and forth and discussion and then working for 1 hour and then having to restart and doing some deep work from scratch and having to prepare for that, When we are sprinting, we are doing probably the same thing, but in just 1 week. So it might be a tiresome week, but it's saving you 6 months of work. So I know Tátil quite well for 20 something, 25 years maybe. I started working in Rio, that's where I'm from. I worked more than 10 years for Coca-Cola, so I knew, and I worked with several projects. I knew in depth the creative qualities of Tátil. I always admired the design per se, the branding capabilities, but also for me on the strategy side, on the clients, I always admired how much they understood the business problem and how you could see the creative solutions actually responding the briefing. Let's be honest, that's not as common as we would like it to be. So I always admired Tátil. I worked with them in several projects, and now we are actually working together in this solution. Now I'm part of the team delivering, again, an innovative way to do things. So for me, it's really inspiring. And when you see the quality of work, you see that it's a combination of great people working together. I think it's wonderful now that Tátil is talking a lot and exercising a lot the idea of post-branding, right? Once you do have beautiful brands, well designed in the sense of planning, well crafted to actually address the consumer needs and how to express, how to express that in a very powerful way. What else? How are we going to take that to real life? So Tátil is working a lot on defining the methodologies that are going to be doing that, getting the amazing creative branding work to the world. And the sprint is part of that. It's part of the toolbox. I love it. I love it because we get closer and closer to putting the brand on the hands, hearts, and minds of consumers. If I'm forced to summarize why sprints are great, I would say it definitely starts with speed. Getting to the market fast is super important. When you do that in 5 weeks from briefing to prototype, you are accelerating dramatically the creative process and you can go straight to production. But beyond that, I would say one more thing to be very, very synthetic, which is the skin in the game. So you get out of the painful approval and developing process and then finishing up with a solution that might not be relevant anymore because of the lack of speed in a more traditional process, but also that might be a combination of so many inputs that it doesn't answer the briefing that you had at the beginning. It's not anymore a solution for that problem. And when you sprint, you're all in the room equally responsible for the quality of the solution. And by doing that, you are also not developing ideas, but you are developing how the ideas are going to come to life. So prototyping is a very important part of this skin in the game thing. You don't suggest an idea and then give it up to somebody to try to execute it and then come back with adjustment and say, the idea was great, but it doesn't work in real life. When you're sprinting, you have to prototype the solution and then you see, you know what? When you took that to the consumers, it was not as impactful as we thought it would be. We do that during the sprint. So you are having to face that and then adjust and finish up with something that had been tested, discussed, considered all the inputs and the trade-offs that come with that, and you finish up with a solution that is actually a solution. So that's the key advantage, I would say.